So today I'm going to fix a chef's knife that I dinged. anyway, this is the knife that I use the most in the kitchen, so I probably want the angle to be around 20 degrees. This is a German knife, so it's a softer steel. The stones that I'm using today are probably overkill for this. These are normally for high carbon steels, but they'll cut pretty fast and make the job a lot easier. So the first one we have is the Premium Silver CBN 160 grit. You can see that there, amazing stone, really amazing cutting power. CBN tends to last a little bit longer apparently. I'm not an expert on this, but that's what I've been told, the research that I've done. And after that, we'll go to another PD Tools Premium Vitrified CBN. Yet again, this is an amazing stone, highly recommended. Get up close so you can see that. There we go, Premium Vitrified CBN. And then the final stone that I'll use is the red one, yet again from PD Tools. These are made in the Ukraine, I believe. But this is a 550 grit. Premium vitrified as well. CBN, very good stone. Alright, so I've already sort of figured out the angle using a digital angle finder. You can get these for reasonably cheap. Things like, AliExpress, or Amazon, that type of thing. So I'm just going to pop the stone in here. And rest that on the blade, probably over here. You should probably do it straight, but I can't get away with that. I'm just going to put this on the base here. You can see the reading. What's that, 0.75 I think? Anyway, we want to zero this off. So there we go, without trying to touch it too much. Just going to hit 0. There we go, zero it out. And then I want to put this on the flat part of the fixed angle knife sharpener, of course. And then I'm going to, I don't know if this is exactly how you're supposed to do it, but this is the way that I like to do it. It seems to work pretty good. You guys can't see this, but it says on the screen here 10.5, 10.45 it looks like. So I'm just going to put it on the rod. So 10.45 plus 9.35. So that's around 20, just under, I think. My maths is bad, you can correct me on that. Anyway, that's that part done. This is the part that took me the longest to figure out. I watched a lot of videos on YouTube from other knife nerds creators, and from all the knowledge that I found, that seems to be the best way to do it. And it works, as far as I can tell. Anyway, these stones, they recommend that you use a bit of soapy water, so I like to just put that into a little squirty bottle and then just blast a little bit on there. You don't want it soaking, of course, but you want a little bit on there. You're going to have to reapply that at some point. So anyway, we'll start with this side here. So I'm going to hold this thing around the base. It's a little bit wobbly. When I first got this, I actually had to tighten a whole bunch of things up, and I ended up Loctiting a whole bunch of stuff as well. So if you are going to get one of these Zarlk, I don't really know how to say that, Zarlk fixed angle sharpening systems, once you receive it, you want to go through and check absolutely everything. I found that the center clamp here, that allows you to rotate the knife so you can get to the other side, was really wobbly through this middle section here. So I pulled the whole thing apart, figured out how it worked, and then put it all back together. By the way, this does have a stone thickness compensator, I think that's what it's called, which is this part right here. So essentially you just want to take your stone and make sure that it fits in that gap, and then there's a little knob on the side here that you can unscrew and then sort of sit that down on top, tighten it off, and then pull your stone out. Of course, be careful when you do that. You don't want to obviously damage the fixed angle knife sharpener, and you don't want to damage your really expensive stone as well. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to move from the base of the knife here, right by the hilt, I guess you'd say, by the handle, and then work my way forwards to the tip. The other thing as well I'd like to mention is that the tip is kind of hard to do sometimes. You have to be very careful with that. And if you roll off, you will round that, and it is very, very hard to fix that on one sharpening. You'll probably have to sharpen it a few more times after that, which you obviously don't want to do as well. You don't want to sharpen it if it doesn't need it. But yeah, you can round that off, and it makes it really, really hard to fix. I have done that before. Do not do what I did. All right. Anyway, so just gonna, yeah, it's still nice and wet. Just gonna go in sort of sweeping forward motions, and because these stones are CBN, and of course this is a 160 grit, it cuts really, really fast. So I'm not putting too much effort into it. I'm sort of just using the weight of the handle and the stone itself. Making sure not to round that tip off. You obviously don't have to go as fast as I am. Take your time, figure it out, do it the right way. So that little, in the very start of the video, I explained why I was sharpening this particular knife. It's because I actually dinged the edge on it, which is not great. Was washing the knife off one night after cooking dinner and flicking the water off, and actually hit the stainless steel bench with the knife, which is not good. It didn't massively damage it, but it did damage the edge, so that needs fixing. I don't know if you've ever done this before, but when you're cutting with a knife like that, you can feel that little ding in the cutting edge. It's not very nice to use after that. So anyway, just gonna go, like I said, sweeping motions, back and forth, being careful not to round the tip off, making sure that I'm not putting too much pressure, and also making sure that I'm getting every part of the blade, the edge, nice and evenly. It is okay to sort of stop and work away at one particular point on the knife, but if you do that, you need to blend it in. So I really couldn't tell you how many passes. I just do this by feel, to be honest. But you know, if you sit on a spot for like 2 or 3 motions, you probably want to do like, I don't know, 10, 11 to blend that in. Otherwise, your edge is going to end up being obviously bigger in certain spaces, and you do not want that. You want it to be nice and uniform. So you can see I did a few extra passes on the nose there because, like I said, I find the tip the hardest thing to get right, so I like to do a few extra. But because I did that, I need to go back, blend it in. Making sure to get the base. Won't put the handle there. The belly of the blade on a traditional knife I find very easy to do. It's not hard. And of course, if this is your first time using one of these systems, you want to start with an easier knife shape. You probably don't want to jump into doing something like a tanto style, you know what I mean. It's going to be a little bit of a steep sort of learning curve. So that little ding has almost disappeared. I've taken quite a bit of material off this side. The rod in my face. The angle is looking quite good. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just going to flip this over to the other side now. Look at that. So easy to use. Props to these guys, by the way, for making the system. It's really affordable. I think the shipping was actually free as well, which was decent because it sort of comes pre-assembled in the box, apart from the rod being installed. But yeah, props to those guys. They've done a really, really good job. I'm not made of money, so I sort of had to figure out which system was going to work for me for the money that I had. Alright, just moving on to the other side here. And yet again, I am not pushing super hard. I'm basically just using the weight of the stone and the holder itself, the arm. If you start pushing, it's going to be very hard to get that even pressure across the whole edge, so you're going to end up with spots that don't look right. Man, these stones are absolutely amazing, by the way. If you do have the money, you do not want to scrimp out on the stone. That's for sure. You want to get a good quality stone. It doesn't have to be CBN, it can be diamond. Diamond actually cuts faster, from what I've been told, but CBN seems to last a little bit longer. I think because the structure of the CBN molecule is man-made, it's a little bit more symmetrical, and maybe the size is a little bit easier to control when they make it, so it is going to be better than diamond, apparently. See, I just did a few extra passes at the back here, saying to blend that in, blend it in. And I'm always doing forward sweeping motions going towards the nose of the knife, the tip. Being careful not to round that tip off, of course, but still give it a little bit of extra love, blend it in. This is looking pretty good. Alright, it's actually looking really good. I'm just going to give this a quick wipe off with a paper towel, because there is, the removed material is sitting in the water on top of the blade here, so it's kind of hard to see. So I'm just going to wipe that off. You can see that we're actually removing stuff, of course. And I can see that little ding right there, but it's basically gone. So I think at this point, what I'll do is I'll flip the knife over again. I'll show you how that works. Hit this little tab here. Alright. Flip that over. Give it another wipe. Be careful, obviously, when you're wiping it too. Like, just because it's the first part of the sharpen, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be sharp, because it really is. Oh, we've got a nice burr formation, which is great. It's pretty much along the whole side of the blade. Okay, so the nose here, like I said, one of the parts I find hardest to do, does need a bit more, so I'll touch that up. And of course, just going to have a quick look on this side. See, the nose on this side actually looks really good. So I'll do a bit of extra work on this end, and then blend that in, of course. But from this side, that ding is pretty much gone. And you can see, this is real-time video, I haven't made any cuts or anything. You can see how long it's taken me to get to this point. It's not that long, honestly. And let's be serious, this is actually really fun to do. I really enjoy sharpening knives. It's very, very cool in my opinion. But anyway, this is looking pretty damn good, to be honest. So, like I said, I'm just going to move on to making sure that the stone is nice and wet again, of course. This is locked in place, these knobs are tight. I've Loctited this rod into the stone holder because it was unwinding itself, and I do use a pair of pliers for doing up these little knobs here for adjusting the width of the clamps. Just use it's probably a bit brutal, but I use a pair of long nose pliers for doing that, super handy. There's certain tools that you always want to have around when you're sharpening knives, or at least when you're using a fixed angle knife sharpener, in my opinion. So anyway, let's see if we can fix this nose up here. I'm putting a little bit of extra pressure into this, of course, making sure not to round it off. That's very hard to fix. You can see there the nose is looking a bit better. I've done a lot of passes on that now, so I need to blend, coming all the way down the blade. Alright, let's wipe this off. It's looking a lot better. Still needs a little bit more though. Just gonna spray some more soapy water on the stone here. A little bit of extra pressure. Blend. Alright, let's have another look. Yeah, well, it's looking pretty good, that's for sure. But you can definitely tell where I've been working away at that nose. The edge is a little bit taller, but that's no problem in my mind. In this particular case, at least, I can just easily blend that all back in. But anyway, this video is super duper long, but if you like this video, of course, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more.